45 minutes ago. All right? Now we seal the deal.
Barnes fakes left, comes right, pulls up, and it hits! And to the screen, Curry to the basket! There you go. A best of 7, now a best of 3. 2-2, Warriors and Spurs.
It has been a great series, and not everyone loves what Mark Jackson has to say. Less than 2 weeks ago, the league fined him $25,000 for, quote, an attempt to influence the officiating. Jackson disagreed with that. But if the NBA didn't like his comments, the Warriors coach, who's also an ordained minister, has plenty of believers in the way he uses words to motivate. Take a listen.
Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, in my opinion, they're the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of the game. These two guys are absolutely off the charts. If I was picking this series, I'd give them the check mark as a team. I'd give them the check mark again at the coaching. They are clearly the favorite.
Pat Riley once said, you rebound, you get rings. I'd say you rebound, you beat the Spurs in game 2.
I said it before, trials and tribulations, transportation for where you're going. Game 1 made us better. I said I got the greatest shooting backcourt that's ever played the game. Call my bluff.
Nobody thought it was going to be OT about 30, 45 minutes ago. All right? Now we seal the deal.
One thing I know, this team will not lay down. This team will not quit. And it looked dark. It looked awfully dark. But we found a way to get stops and to make plays.
Go to YouTube, and there's Mark Jackson motivational speeches all over that. As for the other guy that he is facing in this series, his coaching counterparts, well, their teams are knotted at 2 games apiece in the Western Conference semis, but the similarities really end there for Jackson and Greg Popovich. Jackson making his first playoff appearance as a head coach. Popovich ranks among the top 5 all-time in playoff games, wins, and titles as the lead man in San Antonio. For more on the art of motivation, it is our centerpiece this Monday. David Lloyd, take it away.
Oh, yeah, look at this bunch we've rounded up. We got Herm Edwards, John Barry, and Ozzie Guillen. A late arriving Ozzie Guillen.
Ozzie was walking down the hall, sir. What are you doing? We need you, Ozzie. Get in here.
He motivated me, that's for sure. Like, where is Ozzie? Anyway, we have a group of panel and guys who you've coached and played. You've been a player and a commentator now. What do you make of Mark Jackson? Profuse praise, calling his backcourt the best shooting backcourt in NBA history. Do you like that as a way of motivating?
He honestly believes that, you know.
Okay.
So that's the thing. You would think that that's just a confidence type thing to tell his players that I believe in you. But there's a belief system that he has in this young group that I haven't seen in quite a while. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do this, motivate your team, and it depends on the personnel that you have. He's got a young group. He's got an impressionable group. Now, if he tried to coach this way with the 95 or 4 Knicks, they're not buying it. You're going to talk about Charles Oakley saying, they're singing our song, Charles. I don't know that Charles Oakley and these big, rough, tough Rumble guys are buying in, but he's got a young group that's buying in right now, and they have a tremendous belief system.
Are you saying he's trying to convince them that they belong?
Sure.
That's his motivation.
Conventional wisdom says it's always about the veteran team, the San Antonio Spurs, the Denver Nuggets, even a more veteran team. But this team believes, and they're all buying in right now, and it's working.
John makes a great point, and I've been on both sides of it, as a player, as a coach. And when you realize this with players, the core of players that you have, they're your guys,
right,
whether you like them or not. Once you decide this is our team, now you got to coach them. And you know there's a select group of those guys that I've got to constantly press his button. You have to find the buttons of certain players. That's just how it goes with motivating them. Some of them, you don't have to say anything. Some of them you got to stay after. But it doesn't just start during the game. See, most fans see coaches during the game when it's heated and the game is in the balance and you see the coach give something, oh, and they want. It starts in the beginning of the week. This thing starts in the beginning of the week. How you conduct practice, what you're saying to guys. So when it comes that time where you have to say something, maybe a 10-second soundbite, players go, we got what Coach said. He said that this week. And this is how you get them stimulated as far as performing at their highest level.
Now, Ozzie, you're in a completely different sport, different motivation levels when you have to play night in and night out every day. How often would you feel like you had to motivate your players to go out there?
Well, I think you motivate the guys when they're down. You know, you play 162 games plus 30-plus games spring training, and you have different culture. You got people from Dominican, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, you know, and all the song, you pick the right place and the right time. I think you have to talk directly to the players when they're down. I think motivate a guy 162 kind of hard. You know, you sit in the airplane with him. You call him the size when they're hitting batting practice. You have to make believe how good they are. Try to make him forget how bad they're playing. And I think when you make them believe how good they are and forget about the bad thing, I think you take advantage of that, and they bite that. But day in and day out, it's kind of hard to motivate people.
What about these clubhouse meetings we hear about? Oh, the
You don't
Marlins
wanna
just
hear
had a
mine.
clubhouse. Yeah.
You know,
What would you say? You just light them up?
Well,
Let's do some paint?
It depends. You know, most of the time when coach do a meeting, it's just because the team not playing good. Most of the time, the people don't want to hear you coach when they say, well, we lose today. I don't want to hear you talking about how bad we're playing. I think you have to pick the day when they're winning, they're playing better, then all of a sudden you're talking, they give you attention. But when you're not playing well, kind of means it was a player, not a coach. And my coach is telling us how bad with us. I say, well, hear it. We know that.
Yeah, we know
that. We know that. We know you have to remind us how bad we are.
Today's day and age is different. Players need to be coddled now. I think money has a lot to do with that. But old school. I mean, look, you can jump guys. Look at Greg Popovich. He jumps Tim Duncan as much as he jumps DeJuan Blair. He's an old school player. You know, you have to coddle these guys nowadays. Doug Collins this year with the Philadelphia 76ers, he said he felt like Dr. Phil on a daily basis. He didn't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. That's different than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
You have to make sure you have a great relationship with your stars. In any sport, they're stars. You know, when you walk in the door, you know they're stars. And you have the conversation that goes this way, to be quite honest. Help me to help you. That's what I'm here to do. You want to be the star? You're the star. You get paid all the money. That's great. You got to perform well. Help me to help you. In other words, when I'm talking to this team, there'll be times I'm going to get you. Just fall in line. You got to fall in line and help me now, because that's part of the deal.
In one ear, out the other for all the stars.
I do make it easy for me when I start, because I have Jermaine Dye, I have Paul Konerko, I have A.J. Persisky. Those guys, as soon as they're walking, they know how to win, and they're prepared to hear when you go wrong. Some people now, when you tell the players the truth, or somebody, you hurting your feeling, you can be saying that to this guy, you got to find a different way to motivate them, you got a different way to, it depends who you got behind you. You know, I got Kenny Williams and Jerry Reinsdorf protecting me and back me up all the time when I do something, I say something on the paper, and I say to try to get those guys to play better. But, you know, I have to motivate myself to how I got to talk to so-and-so, how I say it, when I have to say it, and where. And some players, you know, when you have a meeting and you start talking, that players know who you try to talk about.
Yeah,
they know exactly who the guy is. And you have to be careful about don't hurt that guy's feeling. Make sure you create, you know what I mean, baseball, you play with men. You know, this is a sport of men. And some people can handle when coach telling the truth, or when coach says something they need to hear.
Yeah. Are you saying the NBA is not a sport of men where they can't handle criticism? Because you were saying they need to be coddled.
Well, I think today's player does need to be coddled, and you need the right superstars. Ozzy's right on it. If you have a superstar that can't take criticism, it's going to be tough to criticize the next guy. And you have to have the right players, not only the right superstars, but the players behind him. Because if I'm a guy that you do something with your superstar and you say something to him, and he gets away with it, and I have a problem with it, and I'm the 9th player on the team, then you have an issue. So you have to have the right superstar player.
They both great points, and I think sometimes what I used to do was this. I would look at other situations on other teams, and we were doing fine. Our team was doing fine, and I would bring that up. I would show a clip or something. Look what just happened over here. And so the players would kind of see, now, we don't want to handle it that way, man. It didn't happen in our locker room, but you know it can get in your locker room. And just wanted them to make sure, hey, this is just what happened on this other team. We don't want to handle it that way. So it never got into our locker room.
Did you have a coach at any time growing up or in the NBA that motivated you, that you thought his techniques work, he's real, this is a guy who gets me more fired up? Or was it more of the thought that I'm an adult, I don't need someone else motivating me, I'm a professional player, and that's how I go about it?
Yeah, I didn't need motivation. I try to
so
be
motivation
professional.
A little bit overrated?
But I think it's a big part of being a coach. I mean, number one,
well,
Phil Jackson's the greatest coach ever.
How can it not be a big part of being a player if it's a big part of being a coach? You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, some people need it, some people don't, right? There's different ways you have to treat people. You think Phil Jackson didn't treat Dennis Rodman than he treated Bill Winnington? I mean, there's a certain line, there's a certain, you have to give these guys room, and some players have a problem with that, and that's when there's a problem. You have to motivate guys in certain different ways. You have to read your group, and that's what Mark Jackson's got a young group right now. Maybe what he's doing with them wouldn't work with a veteran group.
I think that's easier. You know, that's easier. That's the difference between college than professional, you know, the big league. College kid, you say, hey, You got to jump on that building. Okay, how hard do you think it is? In baseball, I go, yeah, what? Are you crazy? That's a different way. You have to, try to get the guys together. They believe in one thing. Okay, it's easy for me. It's easy for them to know who I am and what I do than for me to know 25 guys, 30 guys on the ball club.
You treat everyone fair, but you don't treat everyone the same. And players understand that.
Yes.
And remember, and Ozzie, both of them said something great here. You don't have to motivate them all the time. It's more about encourage them when they're down.
When they're down.
'Cause every player goes through some downtime. As a coach, you want to make sure that they understand, I trust you, man. I need you. Motivate them that way. It's not always hollering at them or telling them how they've done something wrong. It's more of, look, I need you this week. I mean, you go around to some of the star players and say, I need you this week.
Let me ask you this
Communication.
question, real quickly. Is strategy, X's and O's, more important than motivation, or is it more important to have your guys playing hard for you?
Well, play hard, respect you. That's the one thing about respect.
So more important job for a manager is to have you guys playing hard.
Yeah, everybody.
Whether you're making a switch.
Well, a lot of people say, look at how hard I play. No, when you're good, you play the game. When you're bad, you have to play harder.
Each sport different, though. You have to motivate for basketball. I think football's a little more schematically.
Yeah.
But basketball, everybody's basically running the same things. It's about an environment you create. Can everybody come to the workplace, be happy, and work hard?
But one thing about football, you better have emotion. You have to play with emotion. Now, you have to do things right within 30 seconds, but you have to have emotion.
Who's the best motivator in the NFL right now? Who gets this guy? Bill Cowher used to be known for a guy. They would run through a brick wall for Bill
Jim
Cowher.
Harbaugh's got to be.
Yeah, you got Harbaugh brothers.
Right
They do a
what
good
about
job.
in the NBA?
Who's a fiery guy? I don't know.
And you don't have to be fiery sometimes. I mean, most people think you have to ever be a fire. You don't have to be fiery. It's just
It depends on your group.
Yes.
It depends on your
Maybe
group
Mark
of players.
Jackson, right? I mean,
he does a good job.
Mark's been great. Yeah, these guys believe.
Yeah, I think in baseball it's not managing anymore. Tony Lasorda. A lot of people thought Tony Lasorda wasn't the greatest manager, but every day make this player believe how good they was.
That's exactly right.
And I think that's I think he take a very good career because Tony Lasorda was sitting there and every day he made sure his players know they was the best players on the field.
Absolutely. It's been an interesting discussion. The art of motivation with Ozzie Guillen and Herm Edwards and John Barry here on SportsCenter.